Hello. Today I'm going to talk to you briefly about warrantless search. So we know from the Fourth Amendment that a true government search needs to be reasonable, and reasonable under the Fourth Amendment is defined as a search supported by a warrant, and the warrant must be supported by probable cause, and a warrant is issued by a judge or a magistrate. However, searches supported by a warrant are not the only kinds of searches. There are a variety of searches that can actually be conducted in a warrantless manner. And in reality, more searches are warrantless than are supported by a warrant. So I couldn't possibly go over all of them in this brief video. I'm just going to focus on a couple instances of warrantless search. And just because a search does not have to be supported by a warrant does not mean the search can be conducted without anything at all. The search generally is going to have to fit into an exception to the warrant requirement, and we have a lot of these, or it's going to have to be, at a minimum, supported by probable cause. So when a search is supported by probable cause, but there is no search warrant, the probable cause determination is most likely being made by a law enforcement officer, and they are trained to make these types of judgments. So let's start with the motor vehicle, because as we've discussed before, the expectation of privacy in a motor vehicle is not as high as it is in a residence, and this is just common sense. A motor vehicle is transparent. It's got a windshield and windows, and you can see right inside. You can't see everything inside of it, but you can see inside of it. It's much more transparent than a home that has windows in it. Also, motor vehicles have people coming in and going out on a regular basis, probably more frequently than you would in your home. So those people can see what's inside of the motor vehicle, and that automatically reduces the expectation of privacy. And the motor vehicle has been driven on the open roads, where other people that are driving can actually glance in and see what's inside as well. So the motor vehicle is just not a very private place, and if you had a private item, you wouldn't just throw it on the front seat of the motor vehicle in most instances, because it can be viewed by others. So with a motor vehicle, often the only justification that's required for a search is probable cause, and as I said, that determination will be made by a law enforcement officer. So let me give you a couple examples of this. Let's say a law enforcement officer is contacted while out on patrol, and given the description of a vehicle, including a license plate number, that is suspected to have been used as a getaway car in a bank robbery. If the law enforcement officer sees that vehicle and pulls it over based on the phone call, they most likely will be able to perform a probable cause search of that vehicle for any evidence connected to the bank robbery. And this would be guns, maybe, that if the bank robbery was an armed robbery, evidence of items that were confiscated from the bank, like money, anything that the law enforcement has probable cause to believe is connected with the bank robbery itself. No warrant's going to be required. This search will be able to be conducted based on the law enforcement officer's probable cause alone. Let's take another example. Let's say a law enforcement officer pulls a vehicle over for speeding, and when she walks up to the window of the vehicle and gestures for the driver to roll it down, she smells marijuana smoke wafting out of the window once it's rolled down. She smells it and she can see it. And this law enforcement officer is trained to identify the smell of marijuana smoke. All of a sudden, the law enforcement officer has probable cause to search the vehicle for marijuana, because you're not allowed to possess marijuana in most instances, and we know there are exceptions to this, such as medical marijuana in certain states with a prescription, and you're certainly not allowed to smoke marijuana in your vehicle and drive it after that. That's driving while under the influence. Since marijuana can be small, this is going to give the law enforcement officer quite a bit of leeway in the search, because that's what they're looking for, marijuana, and marijuana can be stashed in almost anywhere. But let's contrast it to the bank robbery example. Let's say witnesses told the police that they saw the perpetrator of the bank robbery using a rifle. Well, if the law enforcement officer has probable cause to search based on what was told to the law enforcement officer about the bank robbery, that law enforcement officer is not going to be able to look in small film containers, purses, or any area that can't hold a rifle. A rifle is a large item. So in either instance, the probable cause must support the search, not only the item that the law enforcement officer is searching for, but also the place that the law enforcement officer is searching within the motor vehicle. The body of the vehicle, the trunk, and any items that are inside of it. This is a complicated area. There are lots of exceptions to the warrant requirement and lots of ins and outs of searching using probable cause, even in other areas aside from a motor vehicle. So please pay close attention to your textbook reading and PowerPoint, and don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions.